Mr. Ramcke, what is the nature of submitting your affidavit with the 2 stray dogs picture in your court case Friday, August the 1st?
Well, on that day when I discussed other dogs that were on City Hall property, many, many times that I've seen, one of the days that me and Miss Ellie were sitting there, I said, look right there, out the window. She turns, I grab my phone, I snap a picture of 2 dogs, not mine, black dogs, next to the sign that says, no pets allowed. And of course they're running there. They're running by into the road, of which I also said to Sam Leonard earlier in this questioning, does he remember me stopping him weeks before and saying, look sir, 2 dogs ran across this grass into my parking lot and onto the highway. I'm a dog person. Please go get them off the highway before they get killed. Of which he did. He didn't remember that conversation, that I stopped him in the middle of the road to get 2 little dogs off the highway next to my store.
So that accounts for 2 dogs. You also had another dog on the street who you went and called their attention. It was stray. Tell us the circumstance of that before we return to this photo of the 2 dogs that in his summation he challenged.
That was earlier that summer. Daryl Valdez's daughter owned a house behind the church there. They were weed whacking. Turns out it was their dog. A husky was running through the new police department, running around, and went over to her house, of which I went over there and told Daryl Valdez and his daughter, hey, your dog's running loose all over there. And she says, yeah, he gets out a lot. This is what she said. God rest his soul, Daryl Valdez. He actually did come in my store once. Cody did not, like he exclaimed in court. Either did the chief of police.
So that's 3 dogs accounted for, and now this photo of the 2 dogs all of these dogs were accounted for in your affidavit that was submitted to the court for both the prosecution review and the court.
That is true.
All right. Now, what transpired? How did you submit this in terms of the physical paper showing
this was,
the court and the chief?
I think we got it documented. October of 2024 is where we were having breakfast, whatever it was, at the store. And I turn and I look out my windows. You see the flags. This is my business. To say, look, there's more dogs running around City Hall property. Okay. They weren't just running across. I wouldn't have been able to catch the photo that fast. They were running around City Hall property.
Having a great time.
And as they were ready to run in the road, these unattended dogs, you don't see anybody by there. I grabbed my phone. Okay. Miss Ellie, look. As she looks, I snapped a picture of them right by the dogs, of which I said to the judge, look, here's a picture from the affidavit of the picture. And he says, do you want to submit that in evidence? I said, well, of course. Here, look. Well, which he did. Says to Brian Holt, let's submit this, make sure we submit this picture. Yep, the clerk.
It had already been submitted for every size previously, in fact, 2 weeks before.
Yes, July 1st or 2nd, that affidavit was submitted to the court.
A month before. Yes.
Of which.
So they were completely aware of the photo in there, and it was unchallenged by the prosecution.
It was not
just challenged by the judge.
It was not challenged. It wasn't even challenged by the judge at that point.
Until the summation.
Until the summation.
As a rationale for a guilty verdict.
Where he hands it, the bailiff hands it to Sam Leonard, who's in the phone booth. I'm not sure if he knew where he was at the time in the phone booth. You know, he could have been having lunch in space, I'm not really sure. But he admits that those are not my dogs. And that is City Hall property.
In the affidavit, the two dogs' pictures underneath the flags were cropped off so that the photo was from one side of the paper to the other within the margins
the dogs by
of
the side.
the printing.
That's true.
And so you could clearly see the two black dogs as dogs.
Little dogs. I have a big, large dog, long tail, big ears.
It is black
and
and a little-
itty bitty white dog.
Yeah.
They both admitted that's not my dog. Everyone admits those are not my dogs. So at the end of this trial, this blame game ticket, targeting me and my business.
Okay, no, let's back up a moment. In the hour that you interviewed Chief Leonard, in regards to stray dogs,
Yes.
there was no evidence presented other than these workers had been, 5 workers had stepped in poop 100 feet away from where you go by the little tree with your
Days
dogs.
before the ticket. Days before.
Days before.
Yes.
Now, there's an ATM there that cars drive through. The building has been empty for at least 2 years.
Quite a while.
And dogs, the stray dogs go over there and poop where they were working.
Just by all the amount of tickets they give to unattended dogs running around the city, of which I asked Sam Leonard over the years, how many tickets have you given to people for unattended tickets loose on the streets? And he said, well, over the years, a few. Okay, well, we know that's obviously true, a few, but I'm sure it's hundreds if we look back at the tickets that all of them give them. There's dogs everywhere in this town. Everybody's got dogs. Of which I also said to him, have you ever seen deer on City Hall property? Both him and Cody. Yeah, sometimes I guess there's some deer on the thing. And then, get this, the very next day, a deer is hit in front of the mobile home park, and Philip Holt had to show up to remove the deer laying in the road, and I asked him if he needed a shovel. And he said, no, thank you though. And I said, sure is a lot of deer here. And he goes, yep, I know. And I just went, can you believe these people? So
How many
it
days?
goes from
How many
that-
days after this guilty verdict with no evidence,
What,
no
the next
cameras,
day?
no body
The next
camera?
day, they admit, yeah, there's a lot of deer here, and I did a video on it.
Could you explain what their answers were to the distance of 100 feet between your little tree and where they were working at the
Sure
ATM, which is halfway across a 300-foot area?
I sure can.
All right.
Where all the cameras were, no body cameras, no pictures, no phone cameras, no City Hall camera videos of any of this.
So out of the 21 GRAMAs, 11 were directly related to this poop blame ticket, and the others were related to pollution.
They were.
Chief Leonard did respond to one completely, and that had to do with the lack of surveillance recordings, despite 2 cameras aimed right at that little tree where the ticket was
And a
allegedly
body
issued
camera
for.
and probably a city-paid phone that's in his pocket. Probably.
So there's 4 ways they could have recorded any evidence whatsoever, presented
And
zero.
I asked him about all of that in court, and he said, there's none. And then, so I say to...
So how do you have a preponderance of evidence or a tipping point on evidence circumstantial from none?
That's a very good point. So the judge, after
Has to come up with some reason to find you guilty to try to get rid of this case after a year.
This photo said, I don't know what year that photo is. It could be from God knows what year. And it possibly could be even photoshopped, he says, in his
Wow.
giving me a verdict of this. So the preponderance of evidence is 2 witnesses, one's a chief of police, and one's his longtime resident and buddy, Cody, head of the Parks Department here, that did not witness my dog do that. They both said that. They did not see it. There is no evidence of that.
And the other
It never said
person,
it-
the other person with a statement was Bert Kraus, and,
was,
and he did not
Grant
show
Neath.
it. Or Grant Neath, okay.
And they didn't call him because they knew I would discuss him targeting me and my relatives online. That's why they didn't call him.
Okay.
And I asked the prosecutor, the judge, why they didn't call Grant for this witness. Because they didn't have to. They didn't feel it necessary. The other guy that read a statement.
Could you narrate their Cody Valdez's and the chief's reaction to your question on how many feet away they were stepping in the poop where they were working versus where this little tree is? You always go.
I can. I said to him that where they were working, the day before they were working, closer to the parking lot of the brand new police department.
The third one in town.
The third one in town. And this time they were on the other side of City Hall property, probably, 300 feet. It's way on the other side.
Over by the post office.
Over by the post office, way closer to the post office. And I said to Cody, that day that supposedly all these people stepped on deer poop, cat poop, dog poop, who knows, people poop, I have no idea. How far was that away? And he said, well, I really don't know. I said, was it pretty far? And he said, yes, pretty far. Okay, pretty far is 50 feet, 75 feet, 100 feet far away from where I sit and stand and where I sit under the tree with my dogs.
We'll put some photos up with some measurements there on the website so the world can see
None of
this
which they
kangaroo court.
They both have lived here their whole lives. One is the chief of police for 32 years. Doesn't really remember how many dogs are loose in this town. That's a lie. That's a lie. He knows it's a lot. He knows it's a lot. That's one of the reasons why they got an ordinance lady, to help with the dogs
'Cause they could make
running
money that
around
way.
this city
They could make
unattended
money.
by
Money.
people that let their dog, they get loose. And I have dogs. I understand. My dogs are old. I get it. But I love dogs. My dogs don't run anywhere.
How old are your dogs?
Brindle is 15 and a half years old. She'll be 16. I've had her whole life. And this little squirt, if you want to take a picture of her, she'll be 13 here coming up. She's 12 and a half. And they go where I go. That's where they go.
The data on the photo clearly shows from your phone that the photo was taken October 28th
Is that what it was?
of
Okay.
2024,
I had
which
just
is
opened.
about what day did you open?
I opened September 14th.
Okay, so 6 weeks after. All right.
Yep.
And
6 weeks after.
and that was,
exactly.
and it became an issue, obviously, because they'd already issued you 2 tickets in 2 days, and the chief's citation and his narrative quoted a ordinance that does not even exist. He labeled
Which he
it.
acknowledged.
And,
He said,
and what did he
that's a
call it?
traffic code.
Yeah.
And I said,
It doesn't
and he
exist.
said, I don't know why that's on there.
And the other thing that he
But
cited
didn't
in the
say, "Oh, well,
narrative.
then it can't be good.
Yeah, what am I charged for
It's
here?
inappropriate.
The other charge was for corralling or retaining other people's malicious dogs, of which has no bearing on the reality of defecation. And
I was
you
in court
you
for
actually
months
supplied
after
the
that.
court what that ordinance correctly would be from the chief because he didn't write it down correctly or have any relevance to it. The other ordinance was for a unsightly structure, which is actually on a trailer, a storage container.
Of which he told me, I asked him that day. He goes, I can't say anything about your trailer because it's on a trailer. I asked him if he remembered that. Of course he didn't remember. But he also didn't remember citing traffic code on his incident report that he's put his name on it. And he also didn't remember Mrs. Johnson, some fictitious lady he brought up about camera views. Some hypothetical lady he doesn't have to turn his body camera on. Of which I said, well, if it's not about I'm talking about Miss Johnson, but if you're talking about the law, sir, and instructing a citizen, of what the law is so they don't get a charge or an infraction or a ticket, you should probably turn your body camera on. And he states in court, well, Miss Johnson wasn't there that day. And I went, excuse me? What are you talking about?
Yeah, but you were.
You brought up Miss Johnson.
You
not me.
asked him directly to turn his body camera on.
Yes, no, I asked him about body cameras. And he brought up, well, I talk to people all the time. I don't necessarily have to turn my body camera
That's
on.
in the courtroom, but the time of the incident, had you asked him?
The day he was writing that ticket, I said to him, was that body camera on? He said no.
Why?
There's no law. And he said that in court too. There's no law that I have to turn that body camera on.
Now, in your affidavit, which was about 40 pages, you had pictures of the construction container that was essential for remodeling the building, the roof, the whole store. It hadn't been occupied for 25 years.
Long time, that's true.
Other cities in the area have exemptions for construction trailers, and they even have 3-year period for it. So this ticket for the trailer was given you by Officer Mary North, who is the mother-in-law of the other convenience store in town, Pups at the gas station.
Yes.
And the chief's conflict of interest, similarly, his brothers run the miners trading post in town.
The other two family-run businesses.
Those are the only 3 stores in the town as of October 28th,
And mine just
and the other ticket from Mary North the next day. Those tickets were given to you July 14th and 15th, is that correct?
No, that ticket, it wasn't a ticket initially. She gave me a warning, a removal to get my trailer not in city property. And I did not listen to that because the day before the chief of police told me, it's a trailer. I can't say anything about your trailer. And then the very next day I get a letter delivered by Chad Nielsen, who walked into my business, wasn't even open now, not open yet. This is right after he gave me the ticket, knocked on my door. I'm reminded the building was still getting worked on.
Did I hear a knock?
He was just
knocked on the door
Oh, okay.
and says, I don't know what this is. I was instructed to bring this over to you. And I said, I'm sure you will. And locked the door. And of which it was a letter to remove my trailer, a warning to remove my trailer, my work trailer that had been in this town for almost 3 years up to that point. 3 years I've had that trailer in this town before I even moved
Sergeant
down here.
Holt worked beside that trailer in helping you remodel a house in town.
His family has the property right across the street. He's seen us on the roof, cutting trees down with it, moving boulders up, which he helped.
You paid him.
And I paid the guy, that's true. So, right. So, because I didn't listen to this letter removing my work trailer, I'm remodeling a building. I did not pay attention to it. They need to mind their own business. I'm working here. And of which, several weeks later, she brings a ticket over and says, now here's a ticket for an unsightly structure, my work trailer that had been here almost for 3 years.
Now, you asked her a question about who generated who was it from? You assumed it was the chief, and then she corrected that and said, who was this generated by?
I said to her, what is this for? And she said, it's a ticket from city council. And I said, for my trailer? I said, you can't do that. The chief of police said, he can't say anything about my trailer that day. And now you gave me a letter, and now you gave me
amazing.
And it was the very next day, and then you gave me a ticket. And
now
she said, this is directed from city council. And I said to her, Yeah, your city council.
Now, it's fascinating to me as everybody in and out of the town on Highway 23 drives by Councilman Chuck Abeda's storage container that is allegedly grandfathered in. Pup's storage container, these are on the ground,
Because they didn't say anything
are
for 3
also
years.
grandfathered in. And there's
That's a very good point.
yeah, and there's other
How was mine not grandfathered in?
Yeah.
And it's not even a grandfather issue. It's on a movable trailer.
Yeah.
I moved it around my business to cut trees, to get on the roof, to do this, to do that.
fixing up the building.
Remodeling stuff in and out. And she also said,
Not to mention inventory.
I said, you can't say anything about my container on my trailer. And she said something to the effect of, well, something about what's inside. And I went, what do you mean? Of course there's materials and work equipment inside. I didn't understand her question. What do you think a trailer with a storage container on top of it is? It's not for roses. It's for work. This is what it's for. So I didn't even understand the question.
Both of these tickets, because the city council in 7 years has a moneymaker by not assigning penalties for infractions, automatically becomes Class C misdemeanors that carries $750
So you can turn it in.
and 90 days in jail with daily repeats for every day it is not offended. So this would eat up what
use the
capital
state
you
code.
would have
After
as
I
a
spent fortune
threat.
in life savings up to that point, right prior to opening, I was trying to be open for community days that year, which was right then when I got that ticket. I couldn't get open then. We had to, me and Manny had to put a floor drain in.
He's a plumber.
The plumber. Yep, Manny Johnson, the plumber. Anyway, so once community days came and went, I didn't worry about it. I can open when at my leisure now. Well, right there that week is when community days happened, and then suddenly now I'm getting tickets. They know I'm about to open. We already did the parking lot. Everything, inventory was already coming. I was planning to be open. And I did. A month later, 6 weeks later, I opened. But first they gave me these citations and tickets and charges.
Now, Cody Valdez is known to you for calling the police at the slightest cause. There was something about a funny incident, or tragicomic, I guess, on community days.
Well, that is part of that's true. I don't know if he calls. Well, no, in fact, I do know he called the police on 2 incidents. One on his nephew and one on me in a week.
How old is the nephew?
The nephew was probably. This is a couple years ago. I would say 10 or 11 at the time. He was 10 or 11. So this is at community days. And
This is also in the affidavit, his harassment of others that way.
at community days, there was, can you believe it or not, a bouncy house at community days for all the littler kids to bounce around. Well, his
We like
nephew,
that.
yeah, it's fun actually. Yeah, I'm glad they're having a good time. You know, he's a wiry kind of kid, jumping around like a noodle. He's probably, 70 pounds, 60, 70 pounds. He's just a little thin guy, this tall. So he's able to go in there with the little kids. Go in there with the little kids. You know, I don't know if he was in there with his relative. I don't know. It's a community days bouncy house. They have them every year, apparently. And Cody, the junior cop, wanted to be, instead of going over and telling the kids, hey, maybe not so much, his relatives, mind you, maybe should be a little bit less bouncier, he instead calls the police on his nephew
What a charmer.
at the bouncy house at community days because he felt they were too rough, the kids that were in the bouncy house. He's the cop of the bouncy house, apparently. He needs a higher up's direction. My understanding, he also, I'm not sure if this is true now, I don't want to make claims of it, but I've heard this, that he tried to pass the cop test. He's unable to pass the cop test.
I believe that.
So I've heard that from several people as he went, and he couldn't do it. I'll just say that. So it went from that few days before to calling a cop on me over supposed dog crap ticket that they stepped in many feet away. Many feet away or where I've been
To be more accurate than they were, or refused to be accurate in the court testimony, how many feet away from that little tree near the curb and its two non-functioning surveillance cameras that we learned in the GRAMA are recycled every 7 days, and it was months before he actually submitted the ticket to the court after you appeared on the summons, and he was not there. So they find out that, one, you're fighting it, and they could actually adjust charges, but in this,
now a misdemeanor.
yeah, but they stayed a misdemeanor for 7 months until you did a peremptory challenge and a change of venue to Provo. And
Yes,
the court didn't want to have the rest of the world know about this little conflict of interest situation with
immediately
two
they
police
drop it back
officers
to a
and the council.
Immediately they drop it back to a fraction, which Chief Leonard says that it was initially, immediately. This was just a fraction. It was just a fraction, a ticket. And the judge even says at sentencing, well, you know, this is sort of like a speeding ticket, a seatbelt. He even says speeding ticket in court. This is what it is. Where I've been in court for a year.
So all this harassment's been going on for 13 months by the time this trial happened.
That's true. 13 months over this supposed infraction, now charge, facing criminal.
Having to close the store and go to court repeatedly.
I had to go to store every month. Every month over
now,
this.
In terms of, that's the dog poot blame ticket, what some people call Poot Hill.
I call it Poop Hill.
So let's get back to the specific number of feet. How far away, just from your judgment, we can actually pace this out and show this on a photo?
From that tree, we hang over on this side of the tree because there's nicer grass over there. So you always see me if I'm facing the store
near the curb. Okay.
I'm to the left of the tree because there's nice grass right there. There's normally a nice patch of grass that we sit in. Some of it's thicker grass, so we like to sit in it. Where they were working this day, where this sign went up, I would say was a minimum, at that time, 75 feet or more. Minimum 75 feet. And then where they were working the following day, where nobody seen me and my dogs do this, was well over 100, 150 feet, because they were on the other side of City Hall.
Trimming all these bushes near the
Trimming
ATM and further.
the other trees that they had done.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Cody, both of them admitted in court, they didn't see my dogs do it. There is no body camera footage. So the judge said because there was a pile there where we had walked over there, we had walked over there. All dogs run through there, walk over there. Who knew if it was a deer, for God's sake, or a cat? You know how many cats I see around as well?
Could you explain how you clean up the area as a store owner across the street on the City Hall property?
There is so much deer mess over there. That's why I was shocked at their answers. that they never really see any deer on City Hall property, because every time I would go clean the area, trash, sticks, whatever, I'd have one full grocery bag of miner's grocery bag, this big, full of deer poop, cat poop, dog poop, that had been there for days. Not my dogs, Dogs, all kinds of dogs.
So you didn't even use the Market EC's plastic bags, but minors appropriately. Huh?
Well, I didn't have any at that point. I didn't have any at that point because I wasn't even open. I wasn't even allowed to get bags.
Now, for the rest of the world, City Hall is approximately 100 feet east-west from the 3rd police station. There's a police station in the City Hall, so if they were walking across from City Hall to the police department as opposed to driving,
All
you know,
the time.
one
They would all walk through this mess.
you know,
All of them. Chief of Police.
they would have to go through there. Now,
Blame game ticket.
yeah, it's a blame game ticket, and it's a form of harassment, and the fact that there's zero evidence at this point, and presented in the case, clearly defined accounting for 4 different stray dogs. This is
All said in court.
All said in
actually
court.
5.
5.
2 on the camera, 2 that ran across the parking lot where I flagged him down
And-
said, hey man, dogs, look, there's dogs.
And Daryl Valdez's.
Valdez's dog is husky.
Okay. So 25% of stray dogs in your testimony submitted to the court for review were all there. And the prosecution, just to be clear, did not object to any of that.
None of it.
And did not object to the photo whatsoever.
She did not.
And so anybody that submits an honest-to-goodness real photo in this day and age is there. Now, we'll be showing what a Photoshop photo looks like. That photo was cropped with your attention-getting flags, little plastic flags, that was cropped off. And so the side-to-side view of the 2 dogs was there.
Yeah, they said.
So
we don't know what
the
year
only
that was.
criteria that made a guilty verdict was this fantasy of the judge
And
that
Sam Leonard seeing a new, fresh pile of something. And in his police report, I said to Sam Leonard, I shooed away dogs earlier over there, sir, as I was driving away. And he points and goes, there's some right there.
now, just as your routine, if the dogs ever pooped, what was your routine?
Well, I always carried bags with me in my pockets. I still have them to this day. I lived up in Brigham City for 8 years. I would go to Kent's Market and buy a case at a time. There was 1,000 bags. I still have them to this day. The shopping bags you get at all the grocery stores. Because I've had dogs for years. And plus, I used them at Pets First, my vets. My shop was right across the street. And I would bring bags over there for people so they didn't have to use the little bags. And leave them there for them. So, this is actually a very unbelievable story that I am not a good dog owner.
Tell us about your background up in Brigham City with a veterinarian.
Brother Lamar Johnson was in my mother's ward. He was a great guy. I've known him for 12 years now, since I ever moved here. In fact, one of the, and I don't tell this very often, one of the ladies that would go to the dog park couldn't get her dog fixed. I paid for it.
Really? Now, across the
You
street...
have to take that part out of it, though.
That's okay. You obviously care about animals, despite the nonsense that's on social media.
Me and Jim and one other lady paid that $500 bill so she could get her dog fixed because she couldn't do it.
Could you explain your dog's birthday and the dog park across the street from your business in Brigham City?
Yeah, well, what is that? I don't do it right now. I guess I'll do it. We're going to have to edit this heavily now. Now I'm getting upset about it. But anyway.
Well, you care. They don't.
Right.
They only want money out of people. They don't do anything for animals.
The month I left, after surviving cancer and moving here to fix my house, it was Pee-Pee's birthday. It was Pee-Pee's birthday. It was 4 years ago. She was viciously attacked by a pit bull actually there. She's still here. Thank God. It was Brother Lamar Johnson's, the owner's, that's the same birthday as hers, which is March 16th. So we had a dual party when he knew I was going to have a party. I paid for the pizza. I paid for the cupcakes. I paid for the sodas. 30 people showed up for me and my dog since we were leaving. and they still have parties to this day at it's called the Barking Lot. I have pictures of all the
that's so
people
cute.
there. I helped him. I fixed the sprinklers with him. I fixed the fencing with him. I cleaned it up. Anytime Brother Lamar needed help with it, because my shop was right across the street.
And this is a dog park adjacent to the veterinarian.
Yeah, right behind it. He built it.
Okay.
And then I moved in and had a shop, and he said, oh my God, you have a shop here? This was right during COVID. So I was the honorary guy to always help anyway. I'm always there with my dogs. They all loved me. They hated me leaving. They didn't like me leaving.
What do you think of people that don't clean up after their dogs?
Well, I mean, you got to clean up after your dogs. You have to take care of your dogs. I've never had a dog. I've had dogs for 25 years. I've never had a dog ticket for anything from anybody, ever.
How many years have you had dogs vaccinated and
Their whole life.
Okay.
In fact, they have rattlesnake shots
as well?
as well because I'm in rural Utah. And if they ever go around a corner and get smacked, they won't die right there. They've always had that.
Now, with this record, could the same day that this case was, the judge had mentioned he was going to consolidate the no dog licenses ticket you got. Can you explain the circumstances with City Attorney Briner denial of service to you and what that caused to get that ticket that was supposed to have been ruled on but was not?
Yes, the day that Chad Nielsen was, I guess, going around the city and letting everybody know about the dog licenses.
This was like
in this town.
2 weeks notice or something?
Yeah. I forgot exactly what it is, but right, the day he showed up to tell me, I said to him, I can't go to City Hall anymore and talk to any, or no, I can go to City Hall. They're not allowed to speak to me anymore. You guys, you're not supposed to be here, sir, I said to him. You can't talk to me.
This is orders from?
This is on camera. Jason's the first one that told me,
Jason Jorgensen.
the treasurer says, we cannot talk to you anymore because you filed an intent to sue with the city. So everything must go through our city attorney, of which I had no idea who he was. I didn't even know who this man is. I've never heard from him.
And still haven't.
I still haven't. So I didn't know who he was. But since you filed an intent to sue, we can't talk to you anymore. And that was right then when Chad said, you got to get licenses. And I said, well, they won't even help me over there. Of which he said, well, give me the money and I'll go get you licenses. And I said, no, I'm not giving you my money. I don't give guys like you my money. No, that's not how it works.
Not his job.
Yeah, it's not your job either, you know. So
in this denial of service,
right. So
the timing was what?
That was a day or two, or maybe that day. It was probably the day before. I don't remember the exact days right now, but I have it on camera and documented that they denied me service a GRAMA request because they're not allowed to talk to me, a citizen, anymore. And so I explained that to him, and I said, well, we'll figure it out. I don't know.
So the 2 week period elapsed, so you got a ticket for not having dog licenses in this time that you couldn't be dealt with on his Christian Briner ECCity attorney's
and then
orders.
He reversed himself after I sent him a letter saying, you just broke the law. You can't deny me service, sir. I'm a resident. I'm filing legal papers with your city, and you instructed the city to not take my legal work. That's against the law. And then following then they understood that, oh, we made a big mistake. We have to accept his legal work because the legal work must go to the holder of the records, and that's our city hall. And that's where I went again. And finally, they gave me my GRAMA request stamped, but then I also received tickets for unlicensed dogs. right there,
And-
right
and
at that time that now I can speak to them again, but now he delivers me tickets for unlicensed dogs.
On the day that you went to court on August 1st, 2025, you offered a motion so that Christian Briner could represent the interests of the city and ask as a stipulation that then he would present the GRAMA requests in another month. Which would have direct evidence in your case that would be exculpatory or showing collusion, showing other sorts of harassment, conspiracy. Some people would call that RICO racketeering and so forth.
True.
So, what happened to that motion?
The judge denied all of that based on he felt it had nothing to do with this particular case. He kept saying, what does this have to do with this case?
And the relevance was obviously the conflict of interest with two police officers in the council.
Collusion, I said they targeted me and my business, sir.
This was stated in the affidavit clearly.
Which was stated in the affidavit, and I stated it in court, and I don't have this information that I have the right to in this city to know about what my city government is doing.
So you asked for simply lists and summaries of the number of, say, criminal calls that were turned into civil or so forth.
And information about...
The chief is the only person in the city government that has answered the GRAMAs, or at least attempted to. I understand the first one was, he said, no, there are no surveillance cameras that we have on, which would have been exculpatory evidence due to the fact they didn't bother to check them in 7 days.
They bought them with city money and then don't use them.
Yeah. Now, the other one, as I understand...
The denial was, I said, city workers and city personnel, he would not let me prove the collusion via this information GRAMA request through the state of Utah.
And all of your motions clearly stated that you thought
Just
this was
that.
harassment, and the evidence of
Every
the
time.
wrong ordinances cited and so forth,
Every time.
the daily
Same
threats
thing.
of fines and jailing just for opening a store.
And I've stated it in motions, I've stated it in court every time for a year of this harassment and targeting of myself and my business. All the way up to trial, I said the same thing.
And all
the
motions,
day of trial.
all motions were denied, which is probably a total of about 30. And they continued this ticket on and on
Here's
and
a
on.
very important part. The judge stated that he can't make another state government entity do their job. He said, I can't force them, I can't force the city attorney to do his job and fill out your legal GRAMA request through this state. I cannot force him to do
Now,
that.
number one, a justice court handles Class B misdemeanors, which these are. Not a Class C, but a Class B, which carries 6 months in jail and a fine of $1,000 to $5,000 per count.
That's
of
true.
If a city official, the mayor, the council, the city attorney, does not reply to the Government Records Access Management Act. That's a
at this
GRAMA
point,
request for
there's 20 of
freedom
them.
of information.
Never answered from starting in March. It is August. It's August of the same year. That's April, May, June, July, August. That's 5 months, not one answer.
He's run away from you 3 times on video and in the council chambers, never answering and pretending he doesn't know what these GRAMAs are. I was your agent of service, so I served them, so I know properly
there's a
by
city council meeting
emails
tonight.
there.
There's
Now,
one tonight.
what's interesting here is that most people also don't know is that Christian Briner, as city attorney, is the elected county attorney in the 7th
Today's
District.
the 5th of August. There'll be a city council meeting tonight. Go ahead.
And the prosecutor for EC in the East Carbon Justice Court, or Injustice Court, Dominique Petis is also a county prosecutor.
Yes.
So when the judge one time said, you can appeal this, who do you appeal to? The same cast of characters, or they'd have to recuse themselves.
It's a district court.
Yeah, district court would assign another justice judge to this. But no change of venue and no peremptory challenge to have it heard in a legitimate court elsewhere who has no self-interest, such as the chief of police, Officer North, the council, in their collusion. Okay. Now, the idea was that it was a stipulation that if Mr. Briner wanted to interfere in your case or represent it, he could on the stipulation. He comes across with the evidence because the judge says you can enter in any evidence you want in this bench trial after he denied a jury trial.
That's true.
Now, that being the case, Judge John Carpenter then created a situation where he would not enforce the law, which justice courts are to do, if the attorney wanted to do it, and you were asking him to delay the case for a month, so
and there would no be objection by her, by the way,
or for 48 days to decision. 54. You
there
said
there was no objection by any of my claims in court by the prosecutor, by the way, of this evidence. She did not object to it. He did. He said, I can't force.
It's not a matter of forcing, it's to be a matter of an agreement with Briner if he wanted to enter into the case. So, and you have video of the mayor, the previous council meeting to your case, saying, the chief is saying, well, he's my boss, he's Briner's boss. The mayor saying, yes, he's my boss, and then saying Briner can do whatever he wants to do, which is not answering the Freedom of Information laws of Utah.
Can do what he wants
Title
to do.
63G. Okay.
He doesn't have to.
So, this
Shocking.
failure by a government official, the reason the GRAMAs exist is so you're not running a secret government.
Correct.
That's their purpose. Open transparency for government.
And accountability. That's true.
Now, in the time you've been fighting this case, people might also be interested to know the changes on the front page of the city's website. What has appeared there since you've called them on a number of their secret operations?
Well, since this case, since I started filing the GRAMA requests for many months now, and the pressure that's put upon them to change, actually not change, to actually do your job, update your ordinances, update your clerical work, update the recorder. This is Phillips Holt's wife. She's a recorder. She needs to update these things, these ordinances, laws, bylaws, all this stuff. Some of them go back 30 years. 30 years that they've never even updated. And right now, they suddenly did it because of me.
Christian Briner quietly, they have no microphones so anybody can hardly hear. Fortunately, you and another camera person, Ron Johnson, had recorded the meeting, and he's stating that he's telling, essentially, as the attorney to the council, you need to review all these ordinances to put appropriate penalties with infractions.
So he wants them to sort of follow the law, but he doesn't have to follow the law. See? With the GRAMA request, he wants his city that he gets paid for to follow the law.
Now, you also ask the conflict of interest forms, which state that you have one, but it doesn't necessarily require you specify what your conflict of interest is as a city official.
That's true.
That button was also placed on the city website. However, in your GRAMA request for these conflicts of interest, which everyone in the town would otherwise know with Mary North and Pups and Chief Leonard with the brothers Leonard owning and operating minors,
had a conflict of interest, the two
to smash your place.
Because they own family businesses here in this town. Now, I'm not talking about the other officers. If they would have gave me the ticket, it would have been a little
less obvious.
Less obvious. But the two people that gave me tickets, they're the only two businesses in town are their family businesses. So it sort of makes sense at this point to ticket me out of work.
Of the
out of a job.
about the 130 videos that you've posted on this little saga that's of nationwide importance for violation of civil rights, harassing a business out of existence with threats and time lost, and spurious,
Hundreds, thousands of
incompetent
dollars.
citing of the wrong ordinances. The unsightly structure isn't a structure on a trailer, but the thing that they cited, you go all the way through the ordinance, which was not posted. And none of the ordinances were posted until you started asking, what's going on here? And this is, you're targeting me. And
In
so
fact, the day of this ticket, when I went in for this unsightly structure, whatever that means, I still don't know what that means to this day. Who's the arbiter of what an unsightly structure even is?
none of the police can define this.
So
Now, the third thing that was on the website that was minutes and agendas to be posted,
Yes.
several citizens in this town of the 17 committees to improve East Carbon City, mostly with non-governmental cooperatives or businesses, not grants of stolen
citizens
money.
have to do the legwork now.
Yes.
Because these guys don't do it.
Yeah. The question that arose was, besides the ordinances being posted and the conflict of interest forms being posted, there are many teeth missing of minutes and agendas that in most states in the union are 72 felonies.
It's against the law.
Again, against secret government. You're supposed to post these things locally.
It's against the law.
They retroactively did so to the state because the state requires a copy, but they never posted them locally, either on paper or electronically,
Right.
to the citizens in East Carbon.
This is standard practice in this city of not doing their job, not following the law. Rules for thee, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do here.
So in the last...
So ordinances, conflict of interest, and actually doing their city council job minutes for citizens to know what this city does.
So they are indeed criminals, as you have said.
Yes, they are. They are criminals.
Now, question that most people have in the watching your videos on East Carbon Exposed YouTube channel and seeing the detail available on eastcarbonaction.com. There's 3 website pages there.
Yes.
One is called Lawfare -vs Ramcke, Lawfare versus Ramcke.
Yep.
Another one is called Clean Up EC. That's clean with the slash after the eastcarbonaction.com /clean-up-ECC.
Yes.
And there's another web page there called /ticket-terrorism. Now,
They ticket everybody for nonsense.
is there anything on those 3 web pages when people go to see the detail of these cases, civil rights lawyers, anybody else nationwide, looking at phony allegations of photoshopped shows? I think we'll do a photoshopped version of the chief of police's SUV that says to impoverish and to extract instead of
There it is, folks.
instead of a photoshopped accusation of 2 dogs that are just clearly running and have a date.
This is what a
And-
Photoshop looks like, and it's this one is what they do to citizens, poor and the elderly, and non-family members or buddies of the chief of police. I asked Cody Valdez, head of maintenance. Have you ever got a ticket, sir? And he said, no.
Fascinating. With the most people who are unfamiliar with this little burg of East Carbon City, it has 719 houses on the current city budget, and the ones from prior years it keeps rising. There are 5 policemen who are patrol officers. They do not do detective work. They do not do constable work. They do not do detective work. Those are done by outside agencies in Provo, Salt Lake City,
Yes.
or the county seat of Price,
They're
Utah.
security guards.
Yeah, and yet they are costing the 519 houses per house $1,022.
And they want a raise at the last budget meeting.
Yeah.
They all want a raise too.
And in the last budget meeting, in the last city council meeting, it was asked by Genevieve Guerrero, the non-cabal mayoral candidate, is this budget balanced? And Robinette, who was the other non-cabal candidate that was elected with the highest number of votes, so she said that it is balanced, but we had to take $512,000 from the emergency fund, which is almost all of it, to balance the budget. And at that same meeting,
They're broke.
worse than broke, yes. Somebody from the Cabalistas proposes a government dog pound. The city's refused twice on its property to do a kennel. And in this town, on August the 1st, there were 8 members of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, many of whom are the poorest people in this town.
I signed that. I am now a member.
All right, so you're a signatory to the SPCA
Absolutely.
animal shelter being built.
In fact, we just delivered dog food out to the homeless here a few days ago for their dogs because of the ticketing and targeting of people and throwing them out of their homes. A lot of them have dogs and have no money to pay for dog food.
And there's deceased person's dogs they're taking care of. Kathy Henningson's 2 dogs, Bruce Sovik's 2 dogs, others. And when dogs get together, they make puppies. So they have to get a veterinarian on a circuit route out here to spay and neuter.
Desperately.
One of the members of the SPCA, who is one of those evicted on an illegal order of restitution to one of the deceased person's relatives without a probate hearing, and having their belongings moved 4 times with Kathy Henningson and 3 times at least with her, 2 with Sovik's, are now at another house that's trying to help their neighbors. And yet they're being targeted and being told, oh, you now have to have all this belongings, which does not fit the junk definition of a ticket.
So the SPCA formulation is based on citizens who have been targeted and left homeless with animals by many of the reasons from this city that us residents have to help and figure out because this city won't do it. They enjoy their lavish paychecks and ticketing people. They are not out to help you.
Mary North gets a salary and benefits of $72,000 out of the $94,100 budget for animal control, not counting her EMT or any code enforcement duties otherwise. Chief Leonard makes about $145,000. He is one of the top 10 paid policemen in Utah.
He made $146 last year. This chief of police made $146,000 last year with benefits.
Combination 3-house mansion over there is behind the car. Now, the SPCA is a nonprofit, no tax money support effort. Not only the chapter, but there's a public commitment for an acre of land to be traded where it would be out of earshot of anybody in the city for dogs in particular. Right. And to build a bit of a human shelter there for the caretakers of dogs.
There's many strays around too. So this aspect that there's not just dogs running around this town that are strays. Every day on Facebook you see, there's a picture of this dog. Does anybody know this dog? Well, of course they're all going to wander around town, and including on City Hall property. So this aspect of dogs and a pound and a vet and everybody helping the community, which is what we've done and help put together, is what the city won't do, but us citizens have now put together to do.
To solve problems without this so-called grant money they always get 1 out of 9 of. Otherwise, the same day you were in court, these 8 members of the SPCA, which are 8 signatories of 14, that is published on eastcarbonaction.com, and there's a look at the menu item, caring people. I think you need to see what happens when you care about animals in this town or deceased relatives. and how you are unmercifully hounded out of your house. Christian Briner either bought or seized from a house that 5 of these people were caretaking because it had been broken in twice in the prior year or so, and the owners, one of whom is in jail and the others on the lam, asked a lady named Michael and Angus to occupy it with people that would need some housing, so it's not broken into and not damaged or burnt down. Now, when that occurred, he gave them 24 hours to leave. A couple of the residents said, can we delay this by having a dump truck here, which has about 1.5 foot deep
all
thing,
their belongings.
to get rid of old
Were
food
in
or
this
anything
house
else.
and the dogs.
But these 3 families, one evicted by Jeremy Shorts of UtahEvictionLaw.com and his constables from Salt Lake, moved down the street from 147 from 127 Grassy Trail to 147. Now, so they had less than 48 hours. They managed to move Jesse Peterson, Durley Duncan, the other people helping from the LDS Church, pickup trucks, managed to get some of this material moved, loaded, for the second time for Sovic stuff, third time for Kathy Henningson's heirs. All of their belongings are